Okay, we're here to talk about something that I think is actually really important. This is one of the greatest things ever done. This is Deadwood. Um, I'm assuming anybody watching this has actually seen the series, but if you haven't, uh, just watch it. This is truly one of the great accomplishments, not only of television, but I think of media. I think that what they did with Deadwood is do something that I personally adore. Collision between high and low. I talk about this all the time, but really, my love of genre films, my love of Kubrick, my love of Hitchcock, my love of Frank Zappa are these people that can take something that seems very simple and do it in a complicated way. The greatest, I believe, living directors doing this for the Coen brothers, that will take something truly artistic and truly filthy and put them together all at once. And Deadwood really was that. In fundamental ways, what it took was the Victorian predilection for speaking a very heightened language and then add filth to it. This was a grimy, disgusting world that still had the pretense of the Victorian age, all the frills and the flowing. And all you need to do is listen to the diction of Al Swearingen, with this beautiful collision between absolute repellent language and this gorgeous, floaty, sort of Shakespearean form of communication. And in fact, it is Shakespeare we go back to. There's no greater proponent of that high-low, the people in the pits and those in the opera boxes than Shakespeare. And to actually evoke Shakespeare with something as sort of quotidian as a TV show seems a little bit preposterous, but nonetheless, Deadwood really did reach those levels of achievement in the form of a Western. It twisted what the Western was by doing something very specific, which it talked about lawlessness. I understand that Milch originally wanted to do something set in Rome, and HBO was already doing a show on Rome. So he wanted to take that sense of what happens when you're living in a place where the laws have abandoned and humanity wants to create its own structures, its own ways of being. And that's what we really saw in the seasons that they played out. Now, we all know that Deadwood was a critical success, but nobody watched it. This was not the Game of Thrones kind of success. And really, for people like me, it's like you want your art to be really good and really engaging, but you also want it to be popular enough that people continue it, or at least the studios to be sort of masochistic enough to continue to perpetuate it. That's what they did with The Wire. The Wire actually got to have an ending, whereas Deadwood really didn't. It got truncated. We knew that was building up towards something. And if you bought this sort of very silly set, you actually have this, the meaning of endings, that David Milch actually, in this really forlorn moment, walked through the set of Deadwood talking about this is what I would have done in the next seasons. They didn't know when they were actually wrapping up whether or not it was time to be finished. Towards the end of it, they incorporated some elements from characters that they put onto other characters, but they really were left hanging very much. And that's happened quite a bit, actually, on the studio through the years. I think of Carnival as one, where it felt that they were just getting their foot when they got canceled. And, of course, my beloved Rome. Rome is another film, another show, another epic that really was deserving of more than it actually got. Nonetheless, when you have David Mills sort of talking about what the ending would have been, he talks about the potential of there one day, there are supposed to be some films, maybe two films, that would wrap it up. Well, now we finally got it. We finally got the Deadwood film. It's showing on HBO, but it's also showing theatrically in a number of places, including here in Toronto. Some people are actually talking about actually putting it on the big screen, and nothing would make me happier for this to actually exist as a standalone film. So yeah, what we have here really is a clip show. It really is an assembly of moving the story forward, but also really reminding you what took place in the last season. And it's probably good for those that haven't rewatched right away. This is the dynamic between the two fundamental characters of the show, between Ian McShane's Swearingen character and Timothy Oliphant's now Marshall character, and the sort of dynamic between what counts as law and order at a place where law and order is so complicated. Who actually makes the rules? Who controls it? You have the person that's sort of in Swearingen, the person who, with his bare knuckles, sort of carved out the Deadwood itself from the woods. With all the travails of invasions of the local rightful populace and all the other elements that are going on. And then you have this lawman, this reluctant lawman that comes into town. That's really been the dynamic at the heart of Deadwood since the beginning, and that's very much what the film touches upon. Along the way, we have many other historical figures. Of course, Calamity Jane's back. We have the Dumb Saloon still. We have all these other elements that sort of come and play, and the sort of the spirit, the specter of the famous lawman who was shot down while playing some poker. He also makes sort of a ghostly appearance, as it were, in this film. And the way it plays out very much is a truncated version of maybe a couple seasons of the show. This is going to be inevitable. This happened of course, with the recent Game of Thrones final seasons, where you felt this rush to get to an ending that you knew was inevitable. Well, here in a 2-hour film, you have what probably would have taken 2 or 3 seasons on the show. One of the remarkable things about the show was that it used this Western pace, the sort of slow, candlelit pace. I think of Barry Lyndon from Kubrick, of where the pace of the show itself reflected those who were living at the time, so that when there were moments of sort of tragedy or explosions of violence, the impact of them was even more. And it allowed the language, the way that it would take them sentences, sort of like this presentation here, to say something that they could say just, it's good, that they could say in a very sort of much more pithy way. No, the flourishing was part of it. This Victorian sort of filigree is exactly the point. So the way that the show truncated to 2 hours feels very much rushed, which is, a luxury that we had with the seasons that we had before. At the very least, we did get the sense that Milt finally got to move the sort of the story forward. Now, this is not a definitive ending. It's certainly the ending of a particular era. But the way that the show actually ends leaves a lot of threads sort of continue to be tangled. And I could absolutely see, he talked about during that walkthrough, Milt did, about there being a couple films. There may be a follow-up if this one proves successful to actually see these characters reemerge. Although I think it'll actually be quite a challenge to get these performers together. There's some amazing, amazing actors at play here, and many of them, including all of them, were reluctant to go back to Deadwood. We'll see if we can convince them as fans to go back, if there's indeed more story to tell, and we see how the sort of leading into the 20th century affects the community and everything that it resolves. We don't necessarily need to see the ending of all these characters, but there's certainly enough of a dynamic there as the shift from the old to the new, the sort of rural and western to the modern, continues to take place. So how does it play as a show? I think quite remarkably well. Look, it is trying to do many things. It's trying to remind people that probably haven't seen the show in a long time what it was all about. It's trying to encourage new viewers to go back, and it's trying to sate rabid fans like myself about that it was worth getting these people back together, and it very much succeeds at that level. I think it's something that's going to actually require multiple viewings to sort of fully get the depth and complexity of it, just like the show. The language continues to be so dense, the storylines so sort of intertwined that you forget little moments. But the way that it plays out, the way that it actually showcases these sort of titanic major events that take place within a very relatively short period of time, absolutely allows it to play out. So I think as a sort of one of the great westerns of this year, Deadwood absolutely plays that. Whether it's TV, whether it's movie, that's sort of semantic at this point in time. The fact of the matter is Deadwood is truly one of the great works of art of this, or any century, frankly. It really does culminate, when we talk about the golden age of television, sure there is The Sopranos, sure there's these other shows that people point to, but I think Treme, my beloved Treme, and Deadwood really are the apotheosis of this. They really do, for me, do that wonderful thing, that collision between high and low, unlike any others. And I think that the way that the show actually finally gets a little bit of an ending, a little bit of a goodbye, a reminder of what made these characters so great, but not something based on nostalgia, but based on narrative need. I think this was a story that continues to need to be told, and it has incredible ramifications, not only for understanding of the characters, but how it reflects upon the entirety of the series. This is not just a cash cow, a grab in the way that, for example, the Entourage movie or the Sex and the City movie, I didn't think those needed to exist. Those also got theatrical runs in a way that Deadwood unfortunately will never get, because it's too good in some ways. It's too dense. It's too hard to get in for truly general audiences. But for those that are fans, this really was the HBO event of the year for me. Sure, Game of Thrones had its big culmination, but the fact that we got Deadwood back, and we never thought we would, is reason for celebration enough. So pour a drink, go watch the show. It is truly, truly a remarkable achievement and a reminder of what the greatness of this long-form storytelling can actually embody. It has incredible, incredible language. You'll learn some insults you never knew existed, and you'll get to visit again a reminder of these absolutely titanic personalities, incredible performances, stunning visuals, fantastic location, and the hyperboles just flow with something as beautiful and wonderful as Deadwood. I'm Jason Gorber for ThatShelf.com. Please follow us on social at That Shelf or on Insta at On That Shelf. Thank you so much. We'll see you next show.